so that we keep within time schedule of the session. Good evening from Uganda, and good morning to colleagues in Costa Rica. Thank you very much for accepting to take through this mentorship session and accepting to organize a 9-module session around career planning. My name is Anthony Aguero. I lead the program unit at RUForum for training and community development. And I think I am passionate about seeing young people succeed and seeing young people have an opportunity beyond those opportunities that I had at the same age. And so some of these things that I am passionate about around organizing is really around some of the things that I missed as a young person at that time. I can say that I never had the opportunity to attend this kind of sessions where you are taught how to carry a plan. Not a single day until even I finished my PhD. Probably the only time I attended this kind of trainings was when I was taught how to write a CV. Nobody has ever taught me how to appear for a job interview. So you learn most of the things on the job. With these so many words, allow me to welcome and introduce the colleagues that are here today. You will notice that this session, as the students that have joined in from various universities across Africa, that this training session was principally meant for students at Egerton and Gulu University under the training program arrangements that we have for Egerton and Gulu University. But because RUForum as a network is a network of 147 universities across 38 African countries, we have had the opportunity and the pleasure to share with all our member universities, because the problems faced by these for young people are common problems across Africa. And so with this, we therefore would like to say, in today here, you'll have more students beyond the Egerton and Gulu University that were the primary target. But that is what makes these sessions interesting, because there will be students from across the continent, from different walks of life. We do expect that most of the participation will essentially be coming from within East Africa because of the differentials in time and differentials in terms of language, because this is primarily going to be run in English with very minimal. Maybe with moving forward in the near future, we can be able to have some bit of French translation running in the same time. This is principally because we can be able to organize for French translation internally within the Secretariat, and at the same time, we can have translation for Portuguese and Arabic. This can all be done within the Secretariat level so that the different audiences can be able to log in with all these different languages running at the same time. So allow me to basically say, this program is running as part of the TagDev program, which is one of the programs that I lead. And currently that is supporting the training of over 508 students coming from different countries within Africa. And the idea is really to be able to realize changes at 3 levels. The first level of change is at individual level as students, and therefore that's why we are investing in this kind of training events to ensure that we are able to have graduates that are competitive and joining the labor market. The second level of change is the changes at institutional level, which really focuses on really internal dynamics within the university and leadership and so forth, and also the learning processes, including curriculum. So those we are not handling them here today, but what we are handling here today also has an implication on how curriculum can easily be adapted within our universities to be able to focus on some of these, what we call the soft skills. Because if they are not paid attention to, then we continue to have a Bible of students working with the craft of knowledge without attention to detail and this kind of sort of skills that are required. Then the third level of transformation or change that we are focusing is change and transformation at community level. So with these issues in terms of community leadership, in terms of entrepreneurship, in terms of livelihoods and incomes of the people at community level, a couple of these students that are here today are playing that part of role at different levels and in different projects that they are engaged in terms of their research, in terms of their engagement, in terms of their own business enterprises indeed, because there are at least 130 of those students that will be here with their businesses. We have managed to have about 130 student companies established. And these student companies are employing about 852 people from different locations where they are operating. So these are kind of students that will be able to join, but then there will be also those that are doing nothing of that kind. They are not entrepreneurs, they are not doing any community service, but these kind of skills that are going to be shared here will be very monumental for their career growth and different levels, raising awareness and so forth. So you'll have a mixed bag of students, some that have attended leadership trainings before, and some that these things will be hearing for the very first time. So allow me with these so many words to therefore say thank you very much to Earth University. And for those students that are joining here, Earth University is one of the partners in the TAGDEV program implementation. I would like to, with these too many words that I've spoken, to hand over to Naboth, who is coordinating the activities from Earth University side, so that we can have an introduction of the facilitators of this training, as well as a brief introduction of Earth University. So thank you very much. Over to you, Naboth.
Thank you so much, Anthony, for those kind words and that great introduction for the entire package of the trainings. I'll quickly do a brief introduction about Earth University, and then also I'll have the privilege to introduce our speakers for today, our trainers, and then they'll roll out. So quickly, allow me share my screen where I'll go through a brief presentation, and then we can kickstart it from there. So anyway, Anthony has really talked in detail about the whole arrangement, the partnership that we have. And what I want to do is to quickly get you through who we are as Earth University, and then introduce the speakers like I mentioned. So again, Earth University has been in existence for about 32 years now, and it's an international agricultural-based institution offering international agriculture training to students from across the globe. Specifically, we've had students coming in from Latin America, Africa, Europe, and the Caribbean. And our model of training really, part of us as our mission is to prepare these students as future leaders with ethical values to contribute to sustainable development and constructing a prosperous and just society. So we do that through two core principles, one being the student-centered learning. So really here it focuses more on the students themselves, either as individuals or as groups, to explore those real challenges that are existent in the communities, but also being active participants in generating knowledge. So it's an element of enhancing innovation itself. The other one is the experiential learning experience, where you practice what you learn in classrooms, get to the fields where you begin to put this into practice as a way of, again, encouraging you to develop your capabilities and being able to put everything into practice. So as an institution, we run it's a four-year degree program that we run with our students, and through the whole entire piece of time, like I mentioned, it's about that experiential learning, but also getting the knowledge and skills through the regular trainings in the classroom setting in itself. But because it's also a university based in Latin America, we also try to integrate most of the non-Spanish speaking students into the Spanish program to really get integrated into the communities where they'll be getting much of this experiential learning. So I'll not dwell much on the whole experience that we go through, but like I mentioned, being a four-year program now, third year, like most of the universities around, is that we go through a 15 weeks internship training where you aim at really integrating much of what you've learned and the knowledge acquired and putting that into practice in most of the communities where they get to experience the internship. And just to give you a little perspective, at the moment on the university campus, we have about, we have of the total population of more than 400 students right now that you're looking at preparing as future leaders. 50% of them are women. And I can say that 69% of those are students that have been admitted from rural communities or rural areas across the different continents, like I mentioned them. And we also have a diverse team of faculty and students coming from 45 countries, all coexisting on our campuses in Costa Rica. So as well, again, making sure that we expand and have more footprint in terms of impact and change. The university itself in 2018 created another arm of the university we call Earth Futures, which is a global center that is aimed at creating those solutions and promoting leadership for transformation of rural areas in most of the developing countries, but also looking at global food systems for the better future. And in doing this, we have two specific areas of transformation that we look at as our futures. And here, the first one is education for leadership. This one basically is more related to, working with affiliate institutions, including Reform, where we strive to make agriculture education effective and more transformative in terms of preparing the next generation of leaders. The other one is the developing solutions. This one is more related to really working with the rural communities and the producers in terms of designing and as well as implementation of innovation, including that testing and scaling out for those solutions that we would have developed to ensuring that you have sustainable livelihoods in the rural areas. So having mentioned that, allow me to, like I mentioned, Anthony did not mention this, but myself, as part of the Earth family, I lead the MasterCard Foundation Earth University Fellowship Program. And this is one of those programs that we are running under Earth Futures, but specifically under the Education for Leadership pillar. And it is a flagship program that we just started about 2 years ago. And our major focus is, again, helping and accelerating the young African graduates' impact, by bridging up their career pathways to employment and entrepreneurship in agriculture and the rural development on the continent itself. So having mentioned that, allow me to take the privilege to introduce our key speakers for today. I'll begin with Ramon Gonzalez. He's our Vice President of Operations and HR Director. He has a vast experience in human resource management, and he's worked through many years in multiple institutions. Many of them are international institutions. For instance, he worked with Ernst & Young, where he was the HR Director, overseeing about 7 countries in Central America and the Dominican Republic. But he also worked with the Inter-American Institute of Cooperation on Agriculture, where he again managed over 30 countries in the area of compensation and benefits for recruitment. He holds a bachelor's degree in economics from Kansas State University in the USA, and also has a master's degree in human resources and marketing from, for Naples. I'm sorry, Ramon, I'll not really mention this university right now. So that university. And he's also a certified coach. So Ramon, you're most welcome. And we look forward to hearing from you. And the next speaker that we have is Amy Porter. We call her, she's a faculty member at Earth University and has over 10 years experience in higher education. And her main role at the university is overseeing the global internship and career development program there. So again, she also has a vast experience of working with students and helping them and facilitating them through their transitions, career, internships, and as well as supporting them to establish their social networks, through the professional networks through which they can explore more opportunities. She comes from, the US. She's a US native, and she acquired her degree she holds a master's degree that she acquired from Framingham State University in Massachusetts. And she also has a certificate in sustainable farming, as well as currently pursuing a certificate in career services provision. So Amy, Profe, you're most welcome. And with that, I'll yield my time and open up the floor to the two trainers to take us through today's session.
Thank you, Navis. It's a pleasure to, yes. It's a pleasure to be here online with all of you. It's nice to see all the different names that are coming through the chat. Some of the names I recognize, so I want to give a special shout out to those that I know, the Earth grads that are on the call, and a special welcome to all the others that are here. What I'm going to do, you can go to the next slide, Navis.
Nabos, you can put it on slide presentation mode.
Okay, so in general, all these sessions, we have the objective to give professionals the opportunity to evaluate and plan your future employment, as well as expand your job-related skills and knowledge. We are going to have, this is our first session, as you know, where we're going to be talking about thinking about life after university. We're also going to start touching upon managing an effective job search, which will then continue in the future sessions. We will also be talking about becoming a competent, high-performing employee, ongoing professional development and self-actualization, and with the final will be entrepreneurship. Thinking about life after university. Most everyone that's in the university starts to think about that at some point in their life. Some of you on the call might be finishing this year. Some of you might be a few years out. Some of you are graduates and are still thinking about life after university if you're recent graduates. So we're going to talk about preparing for an effective transition from university. What is career development? The different stages for an employee, and also thinking through your options. How do you prepare for an effective transition from university? This is just a quick slide to talk about how do you survive after university. Some of this stuff might be very close to someone that studied in the US, but a lot of times you have to think about when you finish, what are you going to do? Are you going to get an internship? Are you going to look for a job? Do you want to move back home, whether that's from the city back to the village? Do you want to change countries if you're able to? Do you want to work on your health? Do you have money? It's not easy once you leave university to start life. So you need to start planning sooner than later. Next slide, please. So when you hear a lot about career development. What is it? Next slide, please. There's many definitions and many career development is an umbrella. And underneath that, there's many different things that come with it. Career development in general is the sequence of career-related choices and transitions made over the lifespan. Once you graduate from either high school and then college or university, career development doesn't stop once you get that first job. It's something that you need to continually work on up until you retire. At this stage, there's also career planning, which is the steps you take to plan a career. That starts almost right before you start university. When you're going to university, you start planning what career you want when you start choosing what you want to study. That career planning also can happen throughout your whole life, because if you change careers, you need to continue planning. The last thing we're going to talk about is career readiness. Career readiness is a foundation where you can demonstrate that you have core competencies that college-educated student has to be able to go into the workplace and have lifelong career management. Next slide, please. Okay. I think Dr. Anthony was talking about this when he first started speaking. Workplaces in the world, all over the world, are not only looking for graduates that have the technical degree or the technical knowledge in their field. Nowadays, they're looking for many other things, which are called competencies, some case say soft skills. These 8 competencies are from the National Associations of College and Employers, which is an organization based out of the United States, but it has an international affiliations throughout the world. They every year are surveying businesses across the world to ask what are businesses looking for in their employees. And it's not just that they have a college degree. It's not just that they know the technical knowledge in their field. They need to possess these 8 competencies. Career and self-development, which starts in university, where you're proactively knowing who you are and what you want to do, being able to navigate through career opportunities and build relationships. Communication, they're looking for college grads that can clearly and effectively communicate and exchange information, ideas, and facts within the organization and without. They're looking for people that are critical thinkers that can identify and respond to needs. They're looking for people with equity and inclusion. Nowadays, especially now even more with online, we're working a lot of cross cultures. We're becoming more global every day. And they're looking for people that can demonstrate awareness and attitude and knowledge relating to different cultures, locally and also globally. They're looking for leaders. They're looking for professionalism. They're looking for teamwork. They're looking for people that can be able to work in a team, to work towards a common goal for their business. And also technology. Technology nowadays, in each field is going to be a little bit different, but in general, being able to manage technology throughout the organization. These again are just the 8 competencies. Now you may be thinking, okay, I think I'm pretty strong in 1 or 2 of these, or maybe all of these. Or you might say, oh, I need a lot of work. That's okay. These competencies, actually, we have to work on these the rest of our lives. Things are always changing. For example, technology. When I was in school, technology was very different. It's something that we need to work on. But what you should be doing is looking at these skills and what you think you have and what you don't, what you need to work on, and then how you can get better at this. In the future sessions, we're going to be giving some tips and tools to work on. There's assessments to know about some of these competencies, so that will be in the future sessions. Next slide, please. In this slide, we just want to talk about when you're thinking about your career, you need to think about reflecting. What are your strengths and interests? Explore careers. You might know that you're studying engineering, but you haven't really thought about exactly where you want to go with that engineering. You need to develop skills and experiences. And that again is not just in the classroom. And connect with people for other opportunities. Next slide, please. Everyone should have a professional development plan. We should actually have a personal development plan as well. I think in general, we don't work well with this, most people. Professional development plan starts with assessment, getting to know who you are. And what I talked about earlier is that we will share with you some of these assessments where you begin to identify your values, your interests, your skills in order to find the proper fit for what career is for you. You need to start exploring and researching. For example, what I mentioned is you're studying, you're in an academic program, but you need to do some experiential learning. If you have past experiences, if you can do some volunteering. Preparation, Ramon soon will start talking about that. Your resume, your cover letting is very important to be able to get to secure a job. You need to work on your interviewing skills, which we will get into, so you can prepare for what you want to do. The fourth stage is implementation. You have to start the job search. It's not easy. You need to start searching and developing a plan, or if you want to go on to grad study, if you're able to. And you need to be able to develop the skills you need to accomplish to get these goals. And lastly, when you're at this, the fifth stage is decision making. You have to make an informed and meaningful career decision. And you need to know what you need to have a successful career. Next slide, please. Some examples of career development goals, and some of these might be once you're now in a career, is obtaining a leadership role, working better with a team, developing your communication skills, enhancing your network skills, applying for a promotion once you start. These are just examples of the competencies that we're talking about that are constant, that you need to constantly be working on these. Next slide, please. I'm not going to get into it a lot today, but what we have something here called SMART goals. Everyone needs goals, professionally and personally. For professional goals, they should be SMART. The SMART is specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and timely. If I say, I want to be a better leader, it's not really a SMART goal. It's something that I want to do, but it's not very measurable. It is specific, I want to be a better leader. It's not really relevant, a better leader in what, and timely. So you have to work on things to say, for example, I'm going to complete a leadership training course before the end of the year. It's more SMART because it's achievable because I'm going to take the course, and it's timely. This takes practice and time. And again, we're going to be giving you all these tools to work on these SMART goals in the future sessions. Throughout your life, there's different stages of your career. Basically, there are 5 career stages. Next slide, please. These stages come from a psychologist who's very famous. He's from the United States, about career guidance. And he talks about that there's 5 stages in your career. Now, these are typical ages. Some of us start later, some of us start younger, but where you start to explore, you establish a career, you have a mid-career, late career, and then a decline. Decline, I think, is a better, so where you're starting to retire is a better word. But throughout these stages, you change. Self-actualization happens throughout our life. So we have to constantly be thinking about our career and ourselves, not just once, not just after we graduate. Career development is a lifelong process. Next slide, please. Thinking through your options. Here at the university, I work with the 4th year students, and it's always the question, what am I going to do after university? There could be many options depending on where you are, depending on your needs. You could do a post-internship. Many of us will look right for a job. Many of us will continue or start up our own business project. You may need a master's. Taking a gap year usually is not for most of us. Some of us have to do it for certain reasons. Some of us can do it if we have the means. And also another option is volunteer opportunities. In the continuing sessions, we're going to talk about a little bit more on all of this. But these are the things that are options for you after university, and you need to start thinking about now and setting your goals for how you're going to get to whichever one path you choose. That's it for me today. It was a general overview of career development. Ramon's going to take over, but as I mentioned throughout some of my slides, many of the stuff we're going to touch upon in the future sessions, getting more into assessments and tools that you can use to help you with your career development process. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Amy, and thank you, Navut and Dr. Anthony, for the introduction that you did just a few minutes ago. And as Dr. Anthony was saying, we're gonna start, or I'm gonna start this presentation from scratch, in the sense that we're gonna go through a process, as Amy was saying, of different modules. So some people might be familiar with some of the things that we're gonna go over, but some might not. But you know, I'm gonna try to be very specific in the material that we're gonna go over. Next slide, please. Now we're gonna go over
Ramon, just a moment. I just wanted to share something, and just to indicate to you why some of these things become very important eventually. I dropped in a question. I dropped in a question on chat asking people, do you feel worried about what you are going to do after completing university studies? And it was on Mentimeter, and I put a voting code. And one of the things why I want to share with these issues is because some of the responses inside there have totally no relationship with the question that was asked. And this is typical of what we find when you interact with young people during their process of their career growth, during a job interview, or just trying to interact with them to understand who are they. And I just want to share, because it has an implication, even those that are joining in here, to begin to map their mental minds. Okay, so Nabos, your screen sharing. Kindly just stop your screen share, then I share. I want for you, the whole group, to see. This is just on Mentimeter. I don't know whether you're able to see my screen now.
Yes.
Yes, we are.
Yeah, so if you look at the responses in here, people have put in communication, job market, masters, internships, Wanga, me, teamwork, somehow. So the only two responses, there's even God here, there's critical thinking. The only two responses that are correct to the question is somehow and quite. So all the other responses simply didn't answer the question. And this is typical of the issues that one actually finds among the young people. And they begin to ask, why have I not been hired? Why have I not been hired? So there are 118 people signed up here, minus the trainers and the facilitators from RU Forum. That literally brings the number to at least 110. And for me, for many young people that are put in here, it's important for you to begin to focus and begin to see some of the things that Amy has already raised. How do these relate to you as an individual? Where are you in this stage as an individual? You need to begin to map yourself and begin to say, okay, so really where am I in this whole storyline that Amy has put in? Now, Ramon is starting on managing a job search. So you need to begin to be asking yourself, how prepared am I in the context of the things that Ramon is sharing? You need to be doing reflective thinking. So I just wanted to put across that you can answer the question, but you are not actually providing the response. You're basically doing what we call responding to the question rather than answering the question. So that doesn't help to you as a young person, because people who are looking and wanting to pick you need to see that you have a definitiveness of purpose. So this is just what I wanted to share with you based on a simple, quick question that that I put across. The other thing that often that I do, or that we've done in some of the job searches, is that most of, including myself, attended job interviews not knowing that we were being interviewed for the job. It was an interaction. And so quite often your interaction and the way you deal and handle yourself and the kind of responses, imagine the question that I placed out there. If I was looking for a person to hire, so I would now zero down to 2 people. Those 2 people would now be the 2 people who I would move forward to interview for the next. So as young people, you need to, like one, put in their critical thinking. What exactly is this person asking, and why is he asking why he's asking? So these are some of the things eventually as you move forward. So I thank you, and over to you, Ramon.
Thank you very much, Anthony, for the feedback and input. It is really important. And you know, what we're doing today is basically concentrate on preparing a cover letter and CV in order to get the opportunity to be interviewed. You know, and we're gonna have a module about what to do and what not to do in a job interview, because as you're saying, we have to be ready to get the hire, and that happens. You know, last week we had a recruitment opening here and 140 people apply, and only 1 can get the job. You know, so we need to really focus on what we could do in order to get that opportunity. So going back to the presentation, we're going to talk about preparing an effective cover letter. Again, developing the CV in the best way possible. We're going to talk about key strengths and skills. And also we're going to briefly touch on creating your personal brand, you know, which is briefly going to touch on this because we're going to go over this in a session. Next slide, please, Nabo. Thank you. Okay, you know, first of all, you have to keep in mind that the cover letter can tell an employee who you are, not necessarily what you can do, which is what you do in the CV, but who you are. And in CV, again, it's important to have a well-written CV. Remember that CV, it's a passport to get a job interview, which is at the end what we need. You know, have the opportunity to sit down in that table with the recruiter and try to tell them who or why you are the best person for that position. And, you know, we're going to briefly talk about portfolio development, which is something that is not widely used, but it's an effective tool also for the employers. Next slide, please. Okay. As I was saying, you know, a cover letter gives you the possibility to tell a potential employer why you are the best fit for the position that they're looking for, you know, and it's a way to expand much more than you can have in a CV, which sometimes has to be limited because you cannot get into a lot of details in a CV. So a cover letter is really important to open the door for a possible job interview, also well written. We're going to go over that as well now. Next slide, please. You know, we have basically 2 types of a specific cover letter and a general cover letter. Those are the 2 types. The specific cover letter, you use it when you know the position by you know, information that somebody gave you, or when you have the job description. You know, one advice that I will give you is that if you're applying for a job, it's a good idea to ask for a job description. You know, if you ask me here at the university a job description of any of the positions that we have, I just pull it out and give it to you right away. So when you have the job description of a position, it's going to be much easier for you to develop or to write a specific cover letter it's going to be more focused, you know, and more oriented towards the position that you're looking for. So again, if you have a chance, ask for a job description if you're applying for a job. And then the other type is the general inquiry cover letter, which is mainly used if, for example, you want to work in a company that you like, that you want to have an opportunity there, but there isn't any openings right now. So you send this general cover letter so that they'll keep you in mind in case there is an opening in the future. Okay, next slide, please. So some tips for great cover letter, make sure you use confident and appropriate language, and make sure you don't have any typos, in the cover letter. This is really important. Double check it, and sometimes it's a good idea to have somebody else read it for you. Demonstrate that you are qualified for the job. An employer must believe that you can do the job, so make sure you demonstrate that in your cover letter. And also, please make it in one page. Sometimes there's these cover letters that are 2-3 pages, and again, some of us that are reviewing the CVs, or the people that are doing the CVs, they don't have that much time, and they're not going to go to a cover letter that is more than 1 page in length. Also, make sure you write in a concise way. The communication and persuasion skill must be there in the letter. Research the employer, as I was saying. If you can investigate about the employer, then you can have a more important letter, in the sense that it's going to be more specific and more suitable for the job that you're applying for. Writing letters sometimes are time consuming, but it's worth it, so take the time to write a very nice cover letter. That's going to help you a lot. And highlight experiences or details, as I was saying, that are not found in your CV, and you cannot just put them in the CV because it might be too long. Next slide, please. This is an example of a cover letter. Again, all this material I'm going to be given to you. And I just want to read the first paragraph of this cover letter, because I think it's well written. It says, "Please accept my application for the senior sales representative position," or whatever. "After reading the job description, I'm confident that I will be a perfect fit for this role, as my experience and abilities precisely match your requirements." As you can see, this is a very nice first paragraph of a cover letter that really catch the attention of the person that is doing the recruitment. So something like this is really important to have in a cover letter. Next slide, please. Okay, we're gonna move to the CV, and as I was saying, the CV is a passport to get a job interview. This is at the end what we're looking for. As Anthony was saying, if we have a well-written CV, then we could get the job interview, which is what we need. And we will talk extensively about this and what do and what not to do in a job interview. But we have to start.
Yes, hold on, Ramon.
Yes.
If you go just back to the cover letter.
Yes.
Well, in many times in our context, the Americans call it a cover letter. The British will call it the application.
Okay.
Now, one of the things, or one of the frustrating things often, because I happen to participate in quite a couple of recruitment exercises. And you read the first paragraph, and you don't know where to place the candidate. And I have to sincerely be able to say to all those that are here, those that are students, if one reads your application or the cover letter and the first paragraph has no idea where to place you, I don't need to go to the next documents, because I can't grade you immediately. So you have to be very precise. If you look at those first 3 lines, actually 2 sentences, one can be able to say, okay, so please accept my application for senior sales representative on this website. After reading the job description, I'm confident that I would be a perfect fit for this role, as my experience and abilities precisely match your requirements. Then the recruitment agency begins to think, oh, okay, can I then read about why you are a perfect fit, what experience you have, and what abilities you have? So you're already putting, you're putting somebody on the other side on a gunpoint that, okay, please don't move. If you shake your head further without reading my goodness and my experience and my abilities, my boy, you are losing me. So the tactic is to be able to say, why should somebody not put your application or cover letter and all your documents aside to look for another person whose application or cover letter is interesting. So I think that's, for me, the first, it's the first impression, like, boom, here, oh, okay, this is an interesting one. So for all of you, you have to strive to create that first impression where people should be able to be glued to listen to you or to read your application and documents.
I agree 100%, Anthony. It has to catch the attention of the recruiter right away, because as I was saying, there's so many things to read and so many cover letters and CVs that must have something to catch. And as you were also saying, what you put in the first paragraph must be sustained with examples of why you're saying that. So I agree with you 100%. Thank you. Okay, so as I was saying, the CV is the passport to get a job interview, which is at the end we will try to do here. And as I was also saying, we will talk about job interviews in a couple of weeks. The CV is one of the most important documents you will ever prepare. Imagine you could get a job just by writing a very good CV, and this is a whole opportunity that could, open a lot of opportunities for you in the futures. Of course, you can talk about abilities and skills, and in a way, essentially, what doing this in a good sense is selling yourself. You have to tell the recruiter why you are the best person for this position. CVs must be fluid, individualized, and I will just tell you about the importance of getting a job interview. And also in the CV, you can include things like contact information. Just an anecdote here. Some time ago, in another place that I was working, we saw this very nice CV, and we didn't have the telephone number or the email address. So make sure you have the contact information. Sometimes it's nice to put a job objective, if you don't have a cover letter, but a job objective of why you are applying for that position. And of course, information like, educational background, honors, skills, hobbies, languages, all that could be also put in a CV. Next slide, please, now. Okay, there's a couple of different formats of curriculums, and I'm gonna just show you three, the most typical ones, the most that are widely used, the chronological, the functional, and the combined. And let me just brief you. Can we go to the next slide, please? There's a lot of information here, and I decided to keep it because you might get this presentation and you might want to review some of the information that is here, but let me just summarize this. The chronological CV, you start with the most recent job and work backwards, with all these positions that you have. This is for candidates that have a long employment record, that have good career growth and development, and it's probably not for people that have employment gaps, and you don't want to use this format, or for people that just enter in the job market, for example, recent graduates. The other type that we have, the one that we have in the middle, is the functional CV. Is more focused on skills and strengths. This is not recommended if you have employment gaps of career progression, but on the other hand, it's very good for recent graduates. And then we have the combine of hybrid, which shows how the skills you have can apply to a new job that you're looking for. You can show the skills developed to your work history. And again, it's not a good idea to use this if you have employment gaps or your experience is limited. Can we go to the next slide, please? So this is an example of the formats. You can see in this first one, it's the job experience in terms of the date, and you backwards. Let's go to the next slide, please, Nabot. And this is, more recommended for people that doesn't have that much experience in the workforce, and you can see you put there the general skills, the areas of strengths, and then at the end you go over the education. So again, this is recommended for recent graduates. Next slide, please. And then we have the hybrid, as I was saying, which is, I would say for people that maybe has, 10, 15 years of experience, that can, put information about the professional skills as well as the work experience. Next slide, please. Now. Okay, and let me share also with some do's and don'ts of CV writing. The do's is please keep it concise with no more than 2 sides. If you have a CV that is really long, again, we're not gonna see it, or the recruiter not gonna see it because he's looking for a lot of CVs. Sometimes it's so much information that we just don't have time for that. Begin sentences with verbs, like develop, design, the writing in the first person. This is really important so they can see the action of what you are doing. Outline your career history, starting with the most recent first. And again, it depends on the 3 types of CVs that we just saw. Bullet point your achievement and responsibility. This is really important. As Anthony also was mentioning, we have to catch the attention of the person that is doing the recruitment right away. And again, list your qualifications, and education also depends on the 2 types of CV that we just saw. Next slide, please. Include your IT skill. This is really important now, and spoken languages and relevant training. Ensure any online hobbies and interests are brief. You don't want to get into, if you're passionate about some hobby, you don't want to put a page about that because, it's a waste of information that you can put something else, and also references you can put that it can be provided upon request. And please, it's really important, this as well as in the cover letter, make sure you don't have typos or errors in the way you write your cover letter or your CV, because it doesn't look good when you see typos there. Next one, please. Now, I think you passed to one before that. Now, there you go. Okay. Okay, again, we already talked about this. Don't make it too long, Don't include a photograph unless it's necessary. The majority of professionals, jobs go with the person with the best looking CV, not the photograph, okay? Make sure if you put that you are a team player, I'm gonna talk about that in a second, and communication skill, you can really tell why you're putting that in there. Okay, because I might ask questions, or your recruiter might ask questions that you want to make sure you can answer those questions. Okay, make sure, of course, you don't just tell the truth and put it in positive way, and don't list process or package you ever work with the trainer or here on the job specification. Next one, please, Nava. Okay, if you use graphics such as Clipart, be careful, because sometimes they look untidy and slightly, and usually as a recommendation, you don't want to put a lot of, graphs on those type of things in a CV. Make sure you don't use inappropriate email addresses or Twitter names that look unprofessional, and don't be tempted to shrink or reduce the margins to get more information on it, because sometimes is really there's a lot of information there. And also another
Ramon, just a moment.
Let me.
One of the things that I always tell young people: one, I don't read any email address that is not professional. Some of you have email addresses, temptations@gmail.com. Current in the waves, or waves at sea. Okay, that's bullshit. Use your professional emails, have your names. People need to be able to connect to the person. That's why all official emails have either A.Aguero. People can be able to relate, oh, Aguero is a human being, or Anthony Aguero. Anthony Aguero is a human being. But when you say temptations at Gmail, who the heck are you? I just delete. So sometimes you complain that, oh, I sent an email, but you have not responded. It's simply because your email is not a professional email. So I don't open emails that I can't connect to a person because your email might be phishing. I click on it, it becomes a virus into my computer. So if you don't have a professional email, please create a professional email. Because you might not be, you might never be getting responses to your job applications simply because your email, the one you're using for sending out your applications, is classified as junk. So it never gets reflected in any recruitment agency system. Or like me, I don't open it. So it's very important. These are small details, but they matter.
Thank you very much for your comment, Dr. Anthony. This is really important. Let me just go back now, but just for one more, because we have received CVs with email addresses that are just, really unprofessional. So make sure you don't do that. And just the last thing that I want to comment on here is be careful when you put information related to religion and politics, because that might be very sensitive, so just be careful on that. Thank you. Next slide, please, David. Okay, so in this side, you can prepare your CV easily. This site will walk you through step by step in how to prepare your CV. I give you some options, but for example, Canva.com is a really great tool, and they'll again walk you through the whole process of writing a very professional CV, and you see a lot of different options there as well, and you have all these the rest of sites there that will help you to definitely write a well professional and written CV. Next slide, please. Now. Okay, in addition to your CV, you can have a portfolio to keep all your most important achievements and informations. You can put examples of, if you have writing skills, leadership, things that, something that you did as a leader, accomplishments in general. I have to say that this is better used for careers like marketing, publicity, engineers, architects, so that the person, or the professional can show the evidence of what they have accomplished. But you can have information like, next slide, please, now. You can have there your CV, transcripts, again, writing samples, design sample, again, for an architect, an engineer, but also for, somebody that are from those careers, certificates, award, and the CV, of course, as well. Evidence of community involvement. This is really important, especially some of the recruiters like us, like to see community involvement and community help. That's really important to have in a CV as well. And a couple of more things now, but if you can move to the next slide, thank you. Performance reviews, skill list, and even letters of recommendation, that sometimes to put in a CV is very long and time consuming. And you can have something like, next slide, please, now. Something like this, when you have your photograph, your name, and information about you, your website, and contact information in case you might want to do that as well. Next slide, now. Okay, let me go to key strengths and skills. Thank you very much. Are you seeing all the information there now? I'm just looking at some of the what we have in highlight, like detail-oriented. Okay, anyway, the idea of this slide is that you can have here a list of different strengths and skills that you can put in your CV. But what is important here is, as I was saying, to make sure you can explain the ones that you put in your CV. You know, if I ask somebody, okay, tell me why you put that you're detail-oriented, or give me an example. If you say that you have leadership skills, give me an example, a precise example of why you say that. You know, so this is important because you have in a way to defend yourself when the recruiter is asking you questions. You know, the part of adaptability I like a lot, because when you get into a new position, you need to be flexible. You need to adjust to the new policies, to the culture. You know, so that's really important. And also, you know, I kind of is when I see a CV that says punctuality, because to me that doesn't really aggregate anything to the CV. I mean, I'm expecting the person that work in an organization to be punctual and to be there on time. So when you put punctuality, it's like, you know, again, you better use something else, another strength or skills, rather than something like punctuality, because, you know, it's obvious that you should be punctual in a work. Next slide, please. Okay, when you describe your strengths, be accurate. As I was saying, you might be asked why you putting that in your CV. Be relevant, specific. You know, you don't want to put 20 strengths, but the ones you put, be specific and make sure again you know what are you referring for that. And don't be too humble. You know, it's fine to be humble, but in a way you're selling yourself, yeah, in the positive way. So make sure you know show who you are and brag a little bit about yourself. And again, as I was saying, that be ready to demonstrate who you are. Next slide, please, now. Okay, next slide. I'm just closing up here. I'm going to briefly touch on this because there's going to be a section regarding personal brand, but this is a marketing, a way to market yourself, and your career expertise. A personal brand might give you many benefits, you know, and sometimes hiring managers are scouting the web, the goal, and sometimes it's for research of applicants, you know, so this is important to have, and a brand might change over time. So it's again a way to tell a story. Can we move to the next slide now, please? Okay, to build a personal brand, excuse me, you must be passionate about something, and some people don't know what are they passionate about. So I would recommend you to really look at inside and see what is it that you really like, what you love to do, and also, you know, grow your social footprint, make a plan for yourself, and what is important, tell a story. Next slide, please. Now. Okay, and finally, you know, social media and personal brand. You know, before going into some of these social media things, we're not going to go into all of them, but let me just first say that the social media can help you develop a personal brand for sure. However, you must be careful to what you post in social media, because recruiters can check you out if it's public, you know. So be smart in how you go about your privacy, you know. For example, in LinkedIn, you know, it's a good tool to add the video to your LinkedIn profile. You know, it's a good idea. In Facebook, as I was saying, be careful on what you put public and not, because, you know, if it's public and recruiters see it, you might want to be careful about that. In Twitter, you know, you can update your bio to reflect your personal vision statement. I think that's a very good feature that you can use there, and be careful who follow use and who you follow as well. Next slide, please, now. And you took well, you know, but you can create a consistent intro to your videos. Use Instagram mainly to utilize hashtag to reach like-minded individuals. You know, people that think about you. You can you know, share with them different aspects as well. And in Pinterest, I'll say that pin items that make you a person or a hiring manager can relate to you as well. Next slide, please, now. So at the end, you know, my advice here is to make sure you leave your personal footprint in everything you do. You are unique, and we have to work on this uniqueness that you have in order to make a difference in the recruitment process. So this is what I have for today. Again, we're gonna go into different modules, and one of the most, to me, important ones is what to do and what not to do in a job interview, because once you get the opportunity to meet with a recruiter, you wanna make sure they choose you, but we have to work on this, and it's not easy. You wanna be successful in this regard. Navot, Anthony, Amy, and I are here for any questions that you might have, and feel free to go ahead and do it.
Thanks, Ramon and Amy and Anthony, really for those insightful suggestions and ideas on what's the question to all of us. I think we will now dive into the Q&A, and it's really been a great one, and thank you so much, all the presenters. So quickly, I want to move to the Q&A session, and the first question that comes, I think this goes to Ramon. The question the person is asking is that what's the difference between a CV and a resume?
Yeah, it's basically a resume is a shorter version of a CV, but for our purposes here, we are thinking about or talking about a resume.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think we use it interchangeably here in Costa Rica.
Mm-hmm.
The word CV and resume. A lot of times the CV is more for academia, when you're going to be including all of your publications and your research.
Thank you. The next question, again, I think this also in part goes to Ramon. What are the important includes to have in a resume, owing that it's a 1 to 2 pages?
And again, I will say, Navot, that the person that's asking the question, but it all depends in your situation in terms of if you have a lot of work experience or you don't have that much work experience. You know, as I was saying, the CV that I show you, the middle, the example, it's a good way to do it, which is talk about your strengths. And then a little bit about your work experience, but again, it all depends in the experience that this person has and the academic preparation as well.
Okay, thank you very much. Amy, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I agree. It really depends on where you're applying, but definitely you need to get your experience, be able to show your skills. And we're talking about any experience, right? Not just academic, it could be volunteering, it could be courses. But...
All right. The other question that we have, and I think maybe, you know, Ramon kept on mentioning that it's a CV is like your passport. So there's a question that came in here, I think maybe out of misinterpretation, but and this is from John Ngala. He's asking, is it right for one to include a passport inscribed on the CV's first page?
No, I guess I was just making an anecdote that if you have a good CV, you know, you can get a job interview, but I don't think it's necessary to do that.
Most definitely. So Draru Emily is asking that sometimes they ask for either European format or American format. So between those two, which one is American and which one is European in terms of the format? I think this also comes back to either the CV. So there's the European format and the American format, and she wants to get more clarification on what makes the difference of those two formats.
Well, I'm familiar with the American format, which is what we have seen. To be honest with you, I don't have a lot of information about the European format, but I can check it out and get back to you and let you know. However, with the slide that I share about the different sites that you can use to develop your CV, you can go there and they will guide you, in terms of the format that you might want to use.
Anthony, may you have maybe some clarification on that as well? Could be busy. Okay, so
they're similar. They're very similar. I don't have tons of experience either in the European CV, but we can definitely get that information, but they are very similar.
Okay,
But I do know that in Europe, they call CV, I think, for both as well, the interchangeable.
That's true. So the next question I have again is from John Ngala, and it's asking that suppose you have a business that you're running and it's related to what you're applying for. Is it good to include it in the CV?
Definitely.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. Mm-hmm.
So again, I think this relates to how you personalize and get to promote yourself as a capable individual to make sure that you get the job you're looking for, because you already have prior experience to it anyways, and that makes you more of a competent person to get that job.
Definitely. I see an advantage in that regard, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Olivia is asking that most recruiters require a high number of years of professional experience for a given job, say 3 to 5 years. However, as an applicant, I may be having the knowledge and skills needed to handle the job responsibilities, but be rejected just because I have only 1 year of professional experience in the field in question. This is common in many French-speaking countries. She's from Burundi. And the question is, what advice would you give to young professionals in such situations? As a recruiter, how do you rate the number of years of work experience versus other skills and capabilities?
Well, this is a very good question, and I know it happens a lot. In my personal opinion, I look a lot about potential. Sometimes it's not important if you have 2 or more years of experience, but if you see potential in that person, you can really get in the institution or company, and then train them to be a better professional. Again, I know this happens a lot, and I don't necessarily agree with that. But I would just say that keep trying, and sometimes people have work maybe in an area that is not related to the job, but that should be also put into the CV, because that shows that there's some experience, maybe not 100% related to the job, but there's some experience there as well.
That's a good one. So there's another question here, and the question is that should marital status be included in the CV?
Not really, I guess we're moving away from that. It is a more personalized information, and you should not include marital status.
I think it's also important too to look at each country. In the US, no, never.
Exactly. And also, I think it also depends on some of the recruiting institutions. For instance, you find that there's some faith-based organizations where marital status may be something that is very important and is to the core of their work values. And so being someone that is married probably is one they would prefer to someone that is single. And so I think it also depends on doing your background homework check on the institution that you're applying for, the job you're applying for, and what institution, whether it's faith-based or not, to be a determinant on whether you should include that on your CV or not. Kelvin Wafula is asking, in all the sites you projected for designing the CV, I realize they charge. Are there any that are free?
Yeah, they should. You should double check, or else, you know, they give you a trial for free for a month or so. At this point, I don't know exactly which ones are for free, but I could check that. But I'm pretty sure, again, that if you get a trial for free, you might get all the information that you need, and you shouldn't be able to pay anything.
Thank you. Evans Moray is also asking that for anyone with work experience, is it prudent for one to include company names and their websites?
I would say, yeah, sure. It shows the experience that you have had, and it's important to show that in the CV. You know, it shows the seniority that you have.
And I think that comes back to what you're saying, that yes, sometimes you don't have to be too humble. You also want to really brag around a little bit of what you've done and showing them that, yeah, I've worked for these institutions and these are the jobs that I've done. These are the skills I acquired over the time. So I think it's important to really have that there if you can. Lucy is also asking a question. Is it okay to put a link about your experience in the cover letter? Secondly, is there any difference between a cover letter and a motivation letter?
Regarding the first question, yes, I think it's a good idea. And the second one, in a way, it's the same. You know, when you have a cover letter, what you're trying to say is motivate the recruiter to hire you or to have an opportunity to have a job interview. So it's kind of the same.
Yeah, I think that the jargon in the English is something that many of us will fall in trap to. I remember when I was in graduate school personally, and I was getting to talk to this professor and was asking me, he was giving me an opportunity to get into his lab. And the thing he said, in the next steps, I need you to get me your resume. It was the first time I'm hearing the word resume. And I was like, okay, what the heck is this? And, you know, it was a little confusing until I met my colleague and said, well, I think they're talking about your CV. I'm like, oh, okay, is it? This is it? So thank you for that clarification. Morgan is asking.
No, but just very quickly, sorry, there's a question related to this in the chat that hasn't come over to the Q&A, but since we're on the topic, and I'm just trying to make sure we get all the questions. As someone is asking, Ramon, what you recommend including in the main body of an email and what you recommend including as an attachment when you're responding to a posting by email related to the motivation letter and cover letter resume.
Emily, sorry, I didn't get that somehow. Can you repeat that? Sorry, it's just, what is the
question?
We have
a question related to cover letter and motivation letter in the chat that is asking what you recommend including in the body of an email versus including as an attachment when you're submitting a job application by email.
I will include an attachment, you know, but you must make sure you have a comment on the letter is there, but it also depends on the type of company, but in general, I would say that an attachment is more formal. Yes.
All right. So Morgan is asking, is it necessary to include the core values in the CV?
Yes, I mean, you know, there's some values that are important for the recruiter to know, but you don't want to put a big list of values there, you know. You know, if you put something like integrity and respect, those are well received. Yes.
Okay, so here's another great question here from Jafar. He's asking that you've talked about strengths, but we also have weaknesses, right? So how do you respond to your weaknesses when asked such that it doesn't jeopardize your job application? That's a good question.
That is a really good question. Again, we're going to go over this in another module. But the first thing that I will say to this person is that start talking not about weaknesses, but opportunities of improvement, and we're going to go on that as well. I mean, sometimes it's fine to say that you have opportunities of improvement. We are not all perfect, It's the way on how you respond to that in a positive way, something that will make a difference. For example, I'm sure that doesn't happen that much for you guys in Africa, but in most of our Latin American countries, one of the opportunities of improvement is that they don't speak English, but when you receive a response from somebody saying, I don't speak English, however, if you give me a chance, I can learn, and I can, I'm a faster learner, so it's a way to respond in a positive way, something that is an opportunity of improvement. But we're going to talk about that in another module in a couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm. That's great. And this other question, I think it's also related to what you're talking about in terms of marital status, and was a continuation, I think, for the same question, to ask as to whether you can include the religion, your religion affiliation onto the CV. And I think what we said, generally in many places, it's not necessary, but probably if you're applying for a job in a faith-based institution, and probably that's one of the core requirements, then you may want to really specify that. But otherwise, it's not something that we see on a general perspective being something that is a requirement or a necessity to have onto your CV. Rahab has a question here that should one have a one CV or create different CVs for these different jobs that he or she is applying for?
This is a really good question, because as I was saying, the most suitable you can make your CV to the company that you're applying for, the institution that you're applying for, the better. So if you do your research and you see values in a company that have the same as you have, you can put that in a cover letter, for example, or you can adjust your CV to that. So you might have a couple of versions, I would say, of your CV depending on the company that you're applying for.
So in other words, what you're trying to say is that depending on the job you're applying for, you may want to tweak your CV here and there to make it more relevant to that particular job, right?
Yes.
Okay. So Emmanuel has a question here that how can Instagram or Twitter influence chances in the job search?
Yes, you want to go ahead, Amy?
Sure. I think Ramon talked about this at first. It can influence it negatively. These companies are looking at our social media posts, Instagram, Facebook, as well as Twitter. It can be positive. The question wasn't about LinkedIn, but yesterday I was having a meeting with my friend is a recruiter at Google, and she says that they search LinkedIn pages, and they're looking. Sometimes they're really targeting and looking for a person. They're searching our stuff, these big companies, maybe not small companies, but you have to be careful what you put on your personal accounts, be it Twitter and all of the social media, as well as LinkedIn. But it can help or hurt you depending on what you have on there. But they're looking at them, all of our accounts.
That I totally agree. In fact, I've had multiple experiences with my friends, many of them being turned down on jobs because there was one or two comments they made either on Facebook or on YouTube on a particular video content or on a particular commentary on Facebook that was against the values of the institution that was looking for someone to recruit. And they end up being hot. And so, like you mentioned, always be careful and be conscious of what you post on any of your social media platforms. Some anonymous certainly asks that, is the application letter solely important when applying for the job, excluding the CV, cover letter and resume. Maybe just to correct the person is that the cover letter is as good as the application letter. But the question really is the application letter more important than a CV or a resume?
Well, I'll say, you don't want to just send a cover letter without the CV because they go together. The cover letter is an intro to us. I was saying who you are, what you can do, which is more on the CV. So in regard of saying who you are, it's important to send a cover letter with the CV as well. And the other way around is that you can just send the CV and not the cover letter, but just the cover letter, I think it'll be a good idea because you will be missing a lot of information.
Mm-hmm. And the last question I have is from Simon, and is asking, is LinkedIn good in conducting a job search?
Yeah, for sure. Amy, go ahead and you can.
Yes, I think it's becoming more and more popular. I think some people started with LinkedIn just to do connections and networking, which is great. But as I mentioned, Google is searching, I know for a fact because of my friend that's a recruiter, is searching LinkedIn pages looking for certain jobs. I've had students here at the university find internships through LinkedIn by connecting to certain companies. So I think it's definitely a place that's.
So thank you very much. And thank you participants for all the questions. These have really been great questions and great responses, as well as so much to reflect on in terms of the content presented to us. Anthony, thank you so much for those words of caution that you've shared within the presentations. It's wise counsel to many of us here in the continent, actually. Unless there are any other questions, I want to get back to Anthony for some closing remarks.
Okay, thank you very much, Nabos, and thanks a lot, Emily and Ramon, and thank you very much, colleagues. Mine is really more about indicating that you have, as young people, the opportunity to begin building your CVs and careers much earlier than some of us did, even at PhD or post-PhD or even at professor level. Our CVs are not yet that organized. And I always admire when I receive a CV of a young person and it's very organized. It makes it easier for you to make a decision. Now, that for me is an opportunity that most of you young people do have by joining this kind of trainings. So it therefore becomes important that you attend all these sessions that we have organized moving forward. So we will be informing you of the next session because we have organized these sessions in such a way that they are gradual. So we will be getting back to you and sharing with you the next session. And we look forward to you joining, but don't only join alone. Bring others together with you because we have kept this session open for the purpose that it reaches as many young people as possible. So with these so many words, allow me to sincerely thank you and end here. And you can be able to share the link of the recording on YouTube and visit and rewatch as you begin to organize yourself further. I thank you. Over to you now.
Just as we wrap up, Anthony, and I'll present this to you and Ramon. There's one important question in the chat room here, and the question is that, is it okay to have your publications, for those that have them, also included on your CV?
Yes, for sure. It is a good idea.
Most definitely, you need to present yourself and promote yourself and be proud of what you're doing.
Exactly.
And that's what the CV does, as long as it's relevant to the jobs that you're also applying for. So again, thank you very much for signing in and being a part of this. Like Anthony mentioned, be on the lookout for on the YouTube channel of Reforum to make sure that you get this recording, and you can always listen to it whenever you want. And I'm sure many of these resources shall equally be shared for you to be able to follow them up in subsequent times. I think we also have your emails as you register. So again, from Anthony's side, I think the secretary will be looking at best ways to see how they can share these resources to everyone that has participated. So thank you very much. Looking forward to meeting with you in the next session that is around the corner, not so far out from now. Be on the lookout in your emails for those flyers that will come in to tell you more about that, and have a great rest of the week.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks a
Bye.
lot. Bye-bye.
Bye.